Yo, what's going on? Super sorry. I knew I had this totally scheduled and I was on phone call. Completely forgot. Anyways, lots of cool things have happened since the last time I've been on here doing a live stream. I feel like it's been literally forever, but that's how it goes, right? Anyways, yeah, just coming in tonight. It's like I said, I haven't done a live stream in forever, so we need to get back to doing these because I find that they have been super helpful for people. Plus, I have enjoyed actually hanging out with you guys and getting to answer questions and whatnot. But it's been forever. It's been months. It's awful, terrible, so many months. Anyways, if y'all have any questions, definitely go ahead and start firing those away. I totally want to answer those. My life has completely changed. I no longer live in California. I now live in Pennsylvania / Maryland. It's kind of confusing. I live right on the border. Anyways, crazy story. A lot of people are probably gonna be like, why did you move? So part of the reason for moving was actually there's a lot of different reasons. My wife's originally from Pennsylvania, and I met her here, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago, and we decided we were going to move to California. When we moved to California, we got married, so we lived in California since we were like 22 years old. Been married 9 years to her, and then eventually we said we would always move back to this area. We just didn't know when we would move back. And we decided now was a good time to move. So we made that decision back in July. And actually in June, end of June, early July, we had just bought a house in California. So we'd throw our house on the market, sell it. And anyways, we ended up moving in August. Wife is a teacher now here in Pennsylvania. And then for me, I am just focusing on running the coaching business and focusing on riding my bike. Anyways, that's what's going on. But yo, what's up, Max? Hey, Max is a super cool kid. I met Max. I've met so many people since I've been here. It's ridiculous how many people I've met. Anyways, I met him at the beginning of the month. We did a trip down to Florida. Me, him, and another guy named Wolfgang. It's super cool. We went down to Florida, raced our bikes. Max is getting pretty fast. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, he went from Cat 4 to Cat 2 this year, and he's on his way to getting his Cat 1. He'll definitely be getting that next year. But we went to Florida, and he ended up taking a couple of podiums while there in the 1-2 field, so super cool. Anyways, so many people I've met since being here. It's been super cool. I've met a lot of people. I've done group rides in the Maryland area. I did group rides in the Pennsylvania area. I went up to Reading, Trexeltown, Allentown area. Down here in the Shrewsbury area. Down in Maryland, there's a sick coffee shop / bike shop I've been going out of. It's called Velocino. It's a bike shop with a coffee area in it where they will make you any type of coffee you are dying to have. Super cool stuff. But anyways, enough about me. Dude, let's talk training. I know we got a few people on right now watching, so for sure, if there's any training questions going on, start shooting those out, firing them away, and I totally want to start answering those and just kind of going through those. Right now is the off season, and during the off season is super, super good because you can work on so many different things during the off season. One thing I've been really focusing on, and I've been posting a little bit about too, is the gym. I've been doing a lot of strength training. I started with a 4-week program, and all my athletes, I give them the same gym stuff that I'm doing. So I started with like a 4-week program and just kind of getting back in the swing of the gym stuff. And then I've been into this more intensive program of doing not only strength work, but also doing plyometrics and different things like that. I believe I'm on week 4 of doing that, and it's been pretty solid. But strength training has been a huge part of my off season so far. And other things I've been doing so far this off season is enjoying group rides. riding for fun, and then I've also gotten back into the rhythm of knocking out some solid workouts and getting some more volume in. So I've started doing tempo work and just talking with my coach. We're working through doing a lot of extended time at tempo to get ready for what I'm getting ready to do next year. So next year is a super exciting year. I can't talk about too much about that right now. I will in the future, so don't worry about that. But for now, sealed. Anyways, how will your training change now that training outside will be less of an option this winter for you? Dude, that is probably one of the questions I've gotten the most from different people. Like even the people I'm doing group rides with, they're like, "So how are you gonna handle the winter here since you're not in California?" And I'm gonna be honest, it's gonna be different. The other day, I was actually on competitive cyclists, and I'm looking at some solid winter tights to pick up because I think I have one pair of winter tights, and I don't think that they're appropriate for anything that's under 45 or 50 degrees. So I'm gonna have to get something a little bit thicker that will go down a little bit lower. But trust me, I'm one of those people where if the weather is decent outside and it's rideable outside, I will be outside given no matter how cold it is. I did live here at one point for about a year and a half, and I did train outdoors a little bit during the winter. I wasn't anywhere as serious as I am now. I was a Cat 4 back then and maybe did 6 to 8 hours a week. Like I didn't train that much if I did consistently. But I will do my best to actually ride outside. I know it's probably not the most fun. I do have the Zwift set up. I actually have the rocker plate. Yep. The rocker plate for indoors. I will be in here doing some stuff. This is going to be my office slash place where I'm going to do training and whatnot, but it is a complete mess. I haven't fully gotten squared in yet, dialed in with this. But training outside, I mean, I've talked to my coach about it. If anything, I'm going to have to do some of the stuff on the trainer, but we're going to try to do as much of it outdoors as possible. Again, I'm going to be getting proper winter clothing and try to spend as much time as I can outside because it's going to get cold. I was actually looking at the weather. I think it went away, thank goodness, but they were showing possible snow next Saturday, but now it went away and I'm like, it is way too early for that junk. But I do see the highs this week is going to be around 48 to 50 degrees, which for most people it's like, oh, it's not that bad. For me, that's freezing because I believe in California the highs are 73 this week. So it's going to be different. But one thing too is during this winter, I'm going to Hawaii over Thanksgiving for 2 weeks. I'm going to use that as a good time to get some solid training in as well, since it will be lovely weather and it'll be super nice outside. That's going to be one thing I'll be doing. I have a team camp in January that's going to be talking about, I think it's going to be in San Diego. I think we're going to San Diego in January. So we'll do team camp in San Diego. Be super nice there. That'll be like the first. Okay, I think the stream's back. Sorry about that. Anyways, what are some other questions that y'all got that I can definitely be answering? I don't think I'm going to be on super long tonight. I'll be on a little bit shorter, but let's go. Let's hear it. I know we only got like 10 people on tonight, not a lot. Again, I haven't done many of these, but I will be doing more of these in the future. But fire away. Any questions are definitely appreciated. Or I can just ramble on about a bunch of random stuff in my life that's going on right now, which I don't even know. Oh, fun fact, gym work is fun until it's not. It definitely makes you sore, and that is probably one reason why I haven't done a whole lot of gym work, because just getting over the soreness has been really tough for me. But it's something that finally, after like 2.5 to 3 weeks of doing it, the soreness has finally gone down quite a bit. One thing that I had been doing a lot of is a lot of core work. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with just especially my abs and things like that, my abs and my back and lower back, like my lower back definitely, just because you spend so many hours on the bike hunched over. I've really been working through a lot of that in the gym, and those first couple weeks, man, my abs were completely wrecked and destroyed, but they are definitely not as sore anymore. Anyways, let's get those questions. Come on, more questions about training and different stuff. Let's talk about it. Let's hear about it. Otherwise, this is going to be a pretty short night tonight. Then I'll be jumping off and going back to hanging out with my wife and doing other stuff. So let's go far away at those questions. So let's talk about season targets for 2022. Any A races, how many, what events, different stuff like that. That's a tough one right now. So my 2022 season is kind of up in the air. I'm going to two races. So I am planning on going to Pro Nationals. I'll be able to go to Pro Nationals this next year. I'm going to do that. So that's definitely going to be one of my key events, the road race. The other thing is I picked up a time trial bike. I'm actually going tomorrow to get a time trial fit, but I picked up a bike, and hopefully I can get pretty dialed in on that and start doing a lot of work on that and use that for the Pro TT. That would be super fun to go and do. So I'm looking at that. Some other targets, there's Joe Martin. I'll probably go do Joe Martin, which is a UCI race in Arkansas. I think I'm going to do Green Mountain Stage Race up in Vermont. That's towards the end of the year. I'm trying to think what's coming out at the beginning of the year. One of my targets was Redlands in April. I don't know if I'm going to be doing Redlands, though. I might not be doing that. It kind of depends on what other races will be available during that time, so I'm going to figure that out. But those are just some of my rough targets for the year of 2022. Basically, this off season, we're just working a lot on just getting more volume in, more than what I did last year, and just hitting that gym really hard this year too, to see what we can do adaptation wise and continue to build and get stronger. But another question from Jeremy was, what's the one thing that you or your coach want to work on this winter to help you improve for next season? Great question. So a couple weeks ago, I got to meet my coach in person. He was up here in Carlisle, PA. And when I went up there to meet him, I was actually meeting with my coach, Scott, and I was meeting with Tim Cusick. If you're not familiar with who that is, Tim Cusick is the guy who's kind of behind the brains of WKO. He's part of the Training Peaks family, different things like that. He does a lot of webinars and teaching. He coaches Amber Newman as well. And anyways, I got to meet my coach, Scott Moninger, and meet Tim Cusick. And then Amber Newman was actually there too, so I got to talk to her about her TT at the Tokyo Olympics, and also talk about her TT at Worlds, recovering from that car crash, or not the car crash, but the accident she had with the car and her bike. But anyways, talking with both Tim and Scott, one of the things for my goals for next year and the racing scene I'm going to be doing next year with the races and stuff is we really, really, really need to build my threshold as big as possible. The style of racing and the stage racing I'm going to be doing next year is going to be super important for having a high threshold. So that's something that we're going to be working on. So one of the things we're really going to be working on right now, at least for the next 4 weeks, we've already done it for 3, continue to build time at tempo. So we've worked up to doing an hour straight of tempo. We've worked up to doing 2 by 40 minutes at tempo. We're eventually going to move into doing like 90 minutes at tempo, maybe do 2 hours at tempo. Like that's the kind of stuff we're doing, because the races I'm going to be doing are going to be requiring a big aerobic engine. So just being able to fight through that fatigue and just get comfortable at tempo and just knock that out. So I've been doing a lot of tempo intervals currently around like 290 is where I've been doing them at. So eventually we'll work up to doing 2 hours at 290. Hopefully by then I'll be a little bit stronger. I'll be doing around 300, maybe 310. But right now, just being early in the off season with my threshold dropping quite a bit from having time off, that's where it's at. But that's already coming back and bouncing back super, super quick. So we're just working on not only building the engine up this way, but we're working on really building it out this way and making it super wide, like super, super wide base, really, really solid foundation. And that's kind of our plan for these next couple months. I do believe maybe in December or late November, probably December, we'll probably start working on some sweet spot stuff and things like that. But that's just kind of where we're going. And then the other thing on top of that is we're focusing on adding more volume. So we won't have many, but we'll have like 1 or 2 30-hour training weeks in there. We'll have quite a few in the 24 to 28 range. The other thing too is we're doing gym 3 days a week, just continue to work on some imbalances in my muscles and things like that. So those are some cool things that we'll be working on. And I think for a lot of people too, a lot of people think you do high volume and you do lots of zone 2 during the winter. But in fact, I find it best if you actually do that tempo work, especially if you don't have a lot of time or a lot of hours. Do tempo work. It's really good for you. It does a lot for you aerobically, helps you continue to build a solid foundation for just also getting efficient on the bike. Your body starts to use carbs more efficiently, hopefully bring up that level to where you start to dip into the carbs and it's not as low, so you burn more fat higher in your zone 2 than where you were before. That's a good thing with that, but that's a lot of stuff that we are focusing on with myself. So that's where my off season pretty much been so far. It's been a lot of just lifting, zone 1, 2 rides, and then throwing in tempo rides and doing some group rides. But now we're getting a little bit more focused on tempo stuff. Jonathan asks, in general, what kind of on-the-bike workouts should you be doing in base training if you only have 10 to 15 hours a week and not 20 plus? Again, I'm going to say it. Right now is a good time to be doing tempo. Eventually, you want to move into sweet spot. Sweet spot is going to be very good. Now, you can't do sweet spot like 24/7. I would do it closer towards the start of your season. So if you know your first race is coming up in, say, March, okay, your first race coming up in March, I would say, by January, you start knocking out the sweet spot, and then you start moving more into like sweet spot threshold come February, and then when March starts, you start putting in the higher intensity, and that way you can kind of peak towards, end of April into May, maybe even June. But one thing, if you're doing 10, 15 hours a week, I would say maybe 2 to 3 of those workouts be some tempo work. And I mean, not just like 3 by 10 minute tempos. I just released a video on tempo workouts, but do something that's more like 2 by 25s, 2 by 35s, maybe do like a 45-minute effort, maybe even work up to doing an hour straight of tempo. And then you transition into sweet spot and you do the same type of progression. You start with like 2 by 20s and you go 2 by 30s and 2 by 40s or something like that. And then, maybe you build up to, maybe you can do an hour straight of sweet spot. That's super tough to do, but maybe you can build up to that. That's something to think about and work towards. That's where, I would start with the off seasons, especially with it being November 1. This is the time to really start working on some of that tempo and sweet spot stuff. So for me, I'm doing a lot of tempo. That's what we're working on. We're not doing any anaerobic. We're not doing any VO2 max. I'm doing a group ride once a week that gets a little spicy, but even then I'm trying to hold back. Now, every 3 to 4 weeks, I would trickle in like some sort of anaerobic or VO2 workout, something with some 30-second sprints or 1-minute max efforts, or even just 2-minute max efforts, but just very minimum, like 3 2-minute efforts, 3 1-minute efforts, and then like 2 30-second max sprints or something. Do that twice a week, like every 3 or 4 weeks. I would do that during the off season too, just to make sure you keep up your VO2, because you don't want to lose that throughout the whole off season. But that's what I would kind of focus on right now during this time. Nathan says, I'm a Strava KOM hunter. Get it, dude. I love poaching KOMs. Fun fact, I went after a KOM. Actually, no, I didn't go after KOM. I lied. I didn't know there was a KOM. We hit this road on a group ride. Me and this dude hit this hill hard. We took the KOM, And then what happened was literally that day, the dude who we stole it from got an email, went out that day and stole it back by like a second or two. And I was like, wow, that's the game we're playing. So I love doing KOMs. I can't wait to go back out to that road and do my best to take it back. But most segments around here are 2 minutes or less. What intervals can I do to bring up my wattage for a shorter KOM? So what you're going to want to do there is you're definitely going to need to build more of your anaerobic power, because your anaerobic power is going to be anything in that kind of 30-second to 2-minute range. Like that's going to be just a full, just dump the tank type of effort. Something else you can do is you can do shorter VO2 max efforts or a little bit longer ones at 4 minutes. But anaerobic wise, when it comes to that, you could always try some 40 by 20s, meaning you go 40 seconds full gas with a 20-second break, and do that for 7 minutes straight. Just 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off. 40 seconds on, 20 seconds off for 7 minutes. Do a 7-minute break in between, and then do 2 more sets of those. That will help with the shorter efforts. Something else you can do would be doing 2-minute efforts. So say you would do a 2-minute effort at about 125 to 135% of your threshold. So you would do 2 minutes at that, and then you would do a 2-minute rest, and then you would do another 2 minutes, and you could do 4 of those. Okay, so you do 4 of those back to back to back. That's going to work on it. Something else that I know works really good is if you do like 3-minute efforts. So do 3-minute VO2s at around 115% to 125% of your threshold. So you go 3 minutes on, 3 minutes off, and you do 6 of those. That will help a lot too. And then when you're doing those 2-minute KOMs, I mean, you're pretty much going full gas on those, right? You're going to be going anaerobic in the beginning and then just trying to hang on. But doing these workouts will definitely help to kind of build up that part of your power curve. I would even throw in maybe some 30-second sprints too. You could do 30 by 30, so just go 30 seconds on, 30 seconds off for 10 minutes straight, and that will be a very solid workout. But I would do 2, probably 3 sets of those. They're very tough, but that will give you good VO2 max workout and also work on anaerobic ability. Because what happens is the first 4 or 5 are like anaerobic, and then you exhaust your anaerobic, and then the last 4 or 5 is fully aerobic, and it sucks. They're so hard to do, but that is those are some quick workouts you can do to work on those. Let's hear how important interval work is. Dude, interval work, I'm gonna be honest, intervals are important. If you're not doing intervals, I mean, that's cool, but having time spent in certain zones under fatigue and different things, huge difference. I do interval work all the time. Obviously, it's made me pretty fast, so I live by. I coach people with lots of intervals. I mean, it works, especially if you're time crunched. Get specific, go out, nail intervals, do them. What do you think about 5-minute FTP tests to define zones? I feel like I can do it more frequent than 20-minute tests. So here's the thing. I don't know how you're going to be able to figure out what your threshold is for an hour based off of a 5-minute test. It just doesn't make any sense to me, because for 5 minutes, if you have a really good anaerobic ability, so like if you're a sprinter, you could probably throw out a pretty solid 5-minute test, right? Now, it's going to be skewed because technically your threshold is lower than that, and you just had a lot of anaerobic contribution that really helped you put out a big 5-minute number, and it's going to skew your results. The other thing is maybe you have no anaerobic ability and you're fully aerobic, and you go and, maybe your threshold is spot on at that number. Maybe it's probably low too. Like, I don't know. Like, here's an example. My 5-minute is 470. Could I tell you what my threshold is off of a 470 5-minute test? Dude, I have no idea. Would I automatically just assume it's like 420 or 450 or something like that? Like, I don't know what you would do with that. So 20-minute tests are super important. I think the big thing about 20-minute tests is you're learning how to pace. And I think the problem that people get into is they overpace too early in the test. Like they have this goal in mind and they shoot for it and they will try to hang on to it and then get to about 10, 12 minutes and then they blow up. So you just have to learn how to pace it. Example, I knew that I could do a 20-minute power somewhere in the range of 380, right? I figured if I could do 380 to 385, that would be a good 20-minute power. But in order to do that, I couldn't go out and pace at 400 watts for 10 minutes. Like, it's just not going to work because I'm going to blow up in the last 10 minutes. So what I think I did was I paced close to 400 watts for 5, and then I was like, okay, let's let the power drop a little bit, and we'll pace closer to 395, 390 for 10 minutes. So that's where I did. So I paced around 390 for about 10 minutes, and then I was feeling pretty comfortable, and I held on to 390 till about 12 minutes, and then I was like, okay, now we're going to start to fade, and now we just got to hang on for these last 8 minutes. And basically, that's what it became. It just became hanging on, and when I ended up hanging on for was 383, I think is what I did. And then based off of that, I came up with a threshold of like 362 or something. But I would definitely say the 20-minute test trumps the 5-minute, trumps a ramp test. I'm just a believer in that. I use WKO, which takes a 20-minute test into consideration, takes your 5-minute into consideration, takes your 1 minute into consideration, and blends all of those together and gives you a pretty accurate FTP. So that's something, you know, I use with my athletes, and I find it very, very, very accurate. I do it with myself too. My coach uses the same stuff with me. But 20-minute test, I think, is the way to go. If you're a sprinter, I would maybe do a 25-minute test because that tends to be a little bit more accurate for where your threshold is since you have more anaerobic capability. Iman, my season just finished, so in transition, my 2A races next season, let's see here, my 2A races next season are mid-August with second early October. When you suggest to start back to base training? So if you literally just finished, I would honestly take a week off, you know, maybe just take a week off, relax, you know, take 2 weeks if you need to. I would say for the next couple weeks, just have fun, ride your bike, keep it chill, do lower volume, easier, keep it more zone 1, zone 2, and just enjoy riding. And then when you get into December, I would definitely start working on some base work. But seeing how you're looking to peak in August, you could honestly start working in December and peak in May, and then you can have June and July as another build and peak, you know, start to peak in August. So what I would do is I would start to peak in August, like the mid part, and then carry that peak through the early part of October. That is a perfect way to do it. So I would give that a shot. Max, as a sprinter, should I practice sprinting at the end of tempo threshold intervals, or should I focus on sprinting during a specific workout, or both? Dude, that's a good question. So sprinting's interesting. So my buddy Nick's a sprinter, and all the time I tell him, like, just practice it all the time. If you're doing a ride, you should always do, you know, maybe 2 or 3 sprints during your ride, and they don't have to be like full gas max sprint efforts. Like, do them also to work on technique, like work on your technique when you do it. Like, always keep that sharp. During the off season, something else you could be doing is like tractor pulls. Like maybe a couple times during your ride, you just kind of come to pretty much a standstill, get in your 53-13, and then just smash that out seated until you hit about 90 RPM. That's going to work on just building your sprint a little bit as well. But yeah, I mean, at the end of tempo or threshold efforts, you don't necessarily have to do it. One thing you can do during season, though, is say you do a tempo block. Say you're doing a 30-minute tempo block. Every 5 minutes, do a max 30-second sprint and then settle back into tempo. And that is going to be a great workout for not only working on your sprint under fatigue, but you're going to be building endurance and being able to force yourself to buffer through that lactate. Because as you know, in crits, sometimes it just, boom, you have those full gas moments and you're back in tempo, and then you're full gas and you're back into tempo. So that is a good way to work on it, especially at the end of a race. I mean, you're surging out of corners and you got to recover super quickly. That's one way to do it, and that will help you to continue to build your sprint. But overall, I would always do a sprint, like 1 or 2 during a race, and then do some, just not during a race, but during a training ride. And then continue to just, do them just a few times during the week. And then when you get into season, then I would actually really start to work on it and fine tune it and hone it. One of the rides I give is an endurance ride where every 30 minutes you're doing a 12 to 20 second acceleration. So these can be max sprints or they can be attacks or something like that. But every 30 minutes during an endurance ride, you would do one of these accelerations. That's something I give a lot of the sprinters that I coach. So, say they go out for a 3-hour ride. Well, the 30-minute mark, hour and a half, 2 and 2.5 hour mark, they just did 5 sprints during a 3-hour ride, just randomly broken up, and the rest of the time they're staying mid zone 2. So that's something too you can think about doing sprint wise. Another good workout to do would be you would alternate. So you would do a tractor pull or a wind up like I described, coming to a stop and doing a 53-13 combination and building that up to 90 cadence. You could do that you would start at the 30-minute mark, and then at the 15-minute mark or the 45-minute mark, you would do the acceleration, the 12 to 20 second like max sprint, and then at the 60-minute mark, you'd go back and do a tractor pull. So every 15 minutes, you're either doing a tractor pull or an acceleration. So you're going back and forth and doing both of those. That's a great sprint workout to do once or twice a week, especially during season. You can give that a try. But that's some cool things to think about. Mike, so you've been doing lots of weight and work mobility stuff lately. Discuss that. Yeah. So me and you are going to have a chat this week, and we're going to talk through weights and stuff. But yes, weight work is... sorry about that. Weights are super, super important. I didn't do a whole lot of it in my earlier years. I kind of wish I did now. A lot of it was kind of like, if you're, on the other side of 35 or closer to 40, weights are more important for you just because it's a little bit hard to hang on to the muscle and you start to lose some muscle mass and different things like that. And for me, I always saw it as kind of like, well, I'm young and I don't need to do weights. But with the type of racing I'm going to be doing next year, I'm like, dude, I really need to get in the gym and I really need to get a really solid core. And I'm not just talking just the abs, but I'm talking like the back, the shoulders, the lower back, strengthen my hamstrings a little bit more, different things like that, because in the long run, it really does pay off for those like 3 to 4 hour rides. If you're able to actually be comfortable at the end of a ride and feel like your base of your body is just super strong on that bike, you're going to be able to transfer more power to the pedals where, if your core is more of a wet noodle rather than the bike because you're just super fatigued and you got like maybe 3,000 or 4,000 kJs under your belt, it's going to be hard to focus on putting all that power into the bike when you're too focused on trying to hold your body up. So that's one thing I've been doing a lot of. I've been doing plyometrics as well, box jumps, long jumps, depth jumps, staircase jumps, kettlebell swings, lateral shuffles, jumping over hurdles, different things like that. And all of that is designed to help me with also the sprint aspect of my bike. Because for me, being more of a breakaway or a climber or a time trial specialist, I don't have the best sprint in the world. I mean, it's decent, but I mean, if I'm coming in with a pack sprint, I ain't winning. But now if I'm coming in a breakaway and there's another sprinter in the field, it's going to be very hard for me to beat that sprinter. But if I have a solid sprint, I can now win out of the breakaway. So something we're working on a lot is the plyometric side of it. So it's just being explosive. For example, today I was doing some of the plyometrics I was doing with my program was... I had to do 3x8 box jumps. So literally just get a 24-inch box, jump onto it 8 times, just up, step down, no rest, 8 times, did 3 of those. I had to do long jumps. So I would do 10 in a row, 2 sets. So 2x10 long jumps. Some other things I've been doing was I did barrier lateral jumps. So just jumping side to side over something, and then I was doing kettlebell swings today. That's some other stuff that I've been doing. But that's really going to help with, just the sprint side of stuff too. For me, that's kind of a weakness. So that's something we're just hitting on with some of the strength work. But again, I'm not doing heavy weights in the gym. Like, I'm doing all of my squats with kettlebells. Like, I was using a 24 kilo kettlebell today on the Bossa ball. So balancing on the Bossa ball while doing squats. Been doing that. Doing normal squats. Other things that I'm doing is the step ups. I'm not doing a ton of weight. I think I'm only using 20-pound dumbbells on that. But we're doing 3x12 or 3x15 and just doing one at a time. It's helping to strengthen the hamstrings a little bit. There's another workout I was doing that was really starting to strengthen my hamstrings. I can't remember which one it was. Then I'm just doing a ton of core work. But we will talk about that, and we'll get you dialed in with strength work this coming week for sure. How important is high cadence intervals, and what is the benefits of high cadence? So here's a fun thing with the tempo work. I haven't been doing just straight tempo. I've been doing tempo with varying cadences. So meaning, I will literally I just released a video on this. I released a tempo workout video. So if you have time, go check it out and watch it. But what I'm doing, so for example, I did a 1x60 minute tempo last week or something like that. And what I did during the tempo stuff is the first 20 minutes of that 60-minute effort, I would do it like a 65 to 85 RPM. So what we're doing there is doing it so low is I'm recruiting more muscle fibers in my body, and I'm using more of my muscular force versus my aerobic system to make the power. All right. So what I found was my average heart rate would actually be pretty low. Like, it would drop down to say I'd average 166 for the first 20 minutes of that tempo effort. And then the next 20 minutes, I would do 100 plus cadence, because now what we're doing is we're not focusing as much on force as creating the pedal or creating the power, versus we're using the aerobic system to now create the power and to just supply the blood and oxygen needed for those muscles. So I was doing 20 minutes at 65 to 85 cadence, and then I would go into 20 minutes at 100 plus cadence at tempo. And I'm gonna be honest, it is super hard. It is not fun. It is not comfortable. My hamstrings get super angry, super pissed from it, but it is something that we've been doing, and I've actually noticed it is making a difference. Like, I've noticed on rides, my cadence is naturally starting to come up a little bit. I'll find myself doing 90, 95 on climbs versus, grinding them out at 80. Something else. And then after that, so that's 40 minutes, right? So 20 low, 20 high, and then the last 20, for the sake of your sanity, just pick whatever cadence you want to do and just have fun with it. So that's something I've been doing. I do that once a week. I honestly don't like it because I hate the high cadence part. It's really taxing and really hard. I mean, it gets my heart rate up into the threshold range, even though I'm doing tempo. But then once I go into self-selected after that, my heart rate drops right back down to where it should be. It's a fun workout. It's different, but I do see a lot of good benefits from doing just the muscular force for the first part, and then doing high cadence for the second part, and then the last part, doing whatever cadence you want. So I give some of my athletes that as well, but I've been doing that, and it's a tough one. But yeah, that really helps. High cadence just helps to strengthen your aerobic system more, because you're going to force yourself to work harder because you're having more muscle contractions, and in the end it's going to help you fight fatigue too. So that's all good things from doing high tempo or high cadence. Sorry. What do you think of running as a racing cyclist? Is there any benefit or just counterproductive? I find it wrecks my legs if I do it. Yeah. I hate running. I don't ever run. Part of the reason because it wrecks my legs. The other reason is it's boring to me. I don't really have any answers for that. It's a good way to switch it up in the off season and do something different. So if you want to run during the off season, go run. You won't ever find me run though. I just don't like it. But yeah, I really don't have a whole lot to say on that because I'm not a big runner myself, and I really don't practice that, and I really don't have any experience with that. So sorry about that one. Let's see here. Let's see here. Okay. From my dad. Okay, here's Max. From my dad, do you address additional strain that's not on the bike, like manual labor, yoga? Should that impact the way you train? Yeah, so that's a tough one. Everyone's lives are different, and for me, I mean, I tell people like, yeah, if you're in manual labor, I will dial some of the workouts back because I know my clients are dealing with that. I mean, here's an example for me this year. I'm just focusing on coaching and riding my bike, which honestly, I get to kind of just sit around all day and work on the computer and talk to people on the phone. I don't really have to do anything manual, and I've already seen like it makes a big difference in recovery. So, yeah, that's a hard one. I don't know how you would input that in Training Peaks or something like that. I haven't really thought about like, hey, I don't know, I worked on a roof today for 8 hours. Is that 300 TSS? You know, I don't know what that would be. I know, so here's a good rule of thumb. If you go hiking, you know, say you hike for an hour, I would usually take that and divide that. You say a TSS is 60 for an hour, right, for a hard workout on the bike. So if you go and you hike for an hour, I would just say that you did 30 TSS for an hour. When I go to the gym for an hour 15, I put in 30 TSS. If you do yoga, I put in 25 to 30 TSS. If it's 45 to an hour, I put in like 25, probably like 25 minutes or something like, or 25 TSS. When it comes to working stuff, that's super hard to do. One thing is I wear a Whoop. I just got the 4.0. Yeah. Anyways, I do wear a Whoop, and it kind of gives me an idea of what I'm doing strain-wise during the day, and helps me try to figure out recovery and things like that. But it's super hard to really dial in those off the bike stressors. Because here's another thing. Say you went and you got a tattoo, right? You know, you say you're on the tattoo table getting a tattoo for like 3 hours. That's obviously going to be stressing your body. Even though you're just lying there not doing anything, you feel like it's not stressful. It's stressful on your body. Your body's freaking out. Going, okay, now we got to repair this area of body that you just damaged with all this ink. Like, what do we do? You know, maybe, I know for me, moving was a huge stressor, right? And it's not the actual physical moving, but just thinking about it, coordinating it, all these things, the weeks leading up to it, major stressor. And then the few weeks afterwards, major stressor. That's why like the second half of my season kind of disappeared, because I was moving. I was just stressed out about it, and it really just made it hard for me to ride and get in a groove and recover. So yeah, I don't know. That's a good question. I think if you have a coach, a lot of it is communication. Talk to them about what's going on. You know, if you've spent all day outside doing landscape or something, like, yeah, it's probably going to be, anytime you're on your legs for a long time, it's going to hinder recovery. So talk to your coach about it. And I know, Max, I coach your dad, obviously, and your dad has mentioned that in some comments, and I've seen that, and I've taken that in a note, and I've changed some of the workouts just because it's like, oh, he was on his legs all day, and then he did a 3-hour ride. Yeah, he's going to be wrecked the next day, so we need to dial things back a little bit. I've noticed that from different athletes when they leave those comments, and that's why I tell people it's so important that you leave comments in your workouts. That way I understand what's going on. If you had a terrible night's sleep, tell me about it. If you just ate like crap that day, tell me about it. If you ended up doing, you know, lots of hard work outside, or maybe your day was super stressful, or something happened with kids, like, tell me about it, because it does affect training. I mean, that's something I don't see from your power file on the bike, right? So those are all good things to kind of keep a log of and also share with your coach. I do the same with mine. I'll tell mine, like, this last week was my 3rd week of training. I'm gonna be honest, dude, my HRV was below 100. It's never below 100. It's always like 130 to 150, below 100 all week. My resting heart rate is usually like 42 to 44. It was up at like 47, 49 all week, just because we were in the 3rd week of our block and I was pretty wrecked. And I told my coach I wasn't sleeping well. I was struggling at night to sleep. I was falling asleep at like midnight or 1 in the morning, and like getting up at like 7:30 or 8. And it was wrecking me just because of all the fatigue and stress we placed on my body. But now we're in a rest week, so things are gonna get totally better. But yeah, stress plays a role no matter what it is. So maybe to me, high cadence sucks. Just can't do it when fatigue is high. Dude, high cadence is hard. It's hard, but practice it. Chunks at a time. Maybe you do 5-minute blocks at 100 plus RPM with 5-minute rest. Just go back and forth. Maybe do 4 or 5 of those. That's one way to start it, but give it a shot. Let's see here. Bone density benefit. Is that for lifting? Because if that's for lifting, yeah, lifting in the gym obviously is going to help you build bone density because now you're actually putting more weight on your bones and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. That's one thing the gym helps. The box jumps and stuff I'm doing, that's probably giving me more bone density. Obviously trying to balance and lift weights and do squats and stuff. That's giving me a little more bone density and whatnot. But yeah, that's one thing that the gym does help with. Any recommend road races in the west part of the U.S. for the first part of the year, February, March, April? That's a tough one because everyone's schedules and areas are different. So, for example, especially with COVID, this year California really didn't start until May. So, it's really going to depend. The best thing you do is go to Bike Reg. Look up what area that you might be in and look for races that are being posted during those times. Hopefully California is kind of back to normal this next year, so they'll have some races in February. They usually start like mid to late February, and then just from there, they kind of just start getting knocked out. But outside of that, I really don't know about anything up in Oregon or Washington. I know Valley of the Sun is in February in Arizona, so that's something to think about. But yeah. Sorry, I really don't have a whole big answer for that. Something I see a ton of people overlook that's holding up progress, fueling during workouts. Yes, fueling during workouts is super important. Too many people try to take a break from fueling during workouts, especially during the base season, so they can lose weight. But always fuel for the work. Rule of thumb, 60 grams of carbs an hour. Rule of thumb, no matter what you're doing. Unless it's like a recovery ride, do it. So I'll have 2-hour rides where I do like an hour is zone 1, the second hour is zone 2. I'll do maybe like 1 gel during that ride, and that's kind of it. That's only like 20 grams of carbs because I'm really not going that hard. But usually, especially on tempo days and things like that, or hard interval days, I'm doing 60 grams of carbs an hour at least. Sometimes I'm doing closer to 90. Always fuel for the work. All right, fuel for the work. All right, what else we got here? Bone density question is something to think of. We need to do more high. Yeah, we talked about that. I ride 4 to 5 times a week. The other days I take completely off. How should I split up those rides between high intensity, endurance, and tempo? Dude, that is a very hard question to answer because you're going to want to do that yeah, that's a hard one to answer because you really don't want to do those all in the same. It depends what you're building towards. If you're building toward racing, you need to do more high intensity work during those days. If you're building towards the off season, just building a base and stuff, you're going to have to do other workouts that target other systems like tempo, sweet spot, threshold, things like that. So that's a hard one. The best thing I would say is, one, if you can't afford a coach, get a training plan or something like that fits for that time of year for what you're trying to do, and then fill those in for the days that you can ride and the days that you can't ride. If you can afford a coach, get a coach, and he will actually figure that stuff out for you. That's part of what I do. That's why I do it. I figure out, I tell people when they need to ride hard, and I tell them when they need to ride easy. I usually end up yelling at them for not riding easy. So that's one benefit of the coach, but also know what you're working towards. If you have a race coming up in a couple weeks, you should be doing high intensity. If you got a race coming up in 4 months, you should be doing more of the aerobic base building, threshold, stuff like that. So that is a tough one to answer. Gosh, I wish I could answer that one. That one's very more specific on how you plan out each week and how you build it for the overall picture of what you're trying to do. I heard Tim Cusick say it best. Every workout we do is a music note. And at the end of the music note, when it comes race day, you want to string them all together to make a beautiful symphony. So for that one, whatever that race day is, whatever you're trying to gear towards, you want to build those music notes up just right in order to have that perfect symphony on the day that you have that race. And unless I know what that is, it's very hard to tell you an exact, pinpoint answer for that. Sorry. Iman, I'm well into my 50s, so bone density is a concern, so that's why I keep a bit of running going. No, that's good. But I agree, sex worse than hiking is work. Yes, no running. Running does help with bone density, for sure. All right, I got 10 more minutes, and then I'm out of here. I'm only going to do an hour tonight, but let's keep going. Fan of the Training Bottle. So when I first started writing, I did read that, and it was a cool book. I liked it. I learned some things from it. I think everyone can read it and learn some things from it. Another good book to read is, what is it? Training with a Power Meter? Is that what it is? Is that what it's called? Training with Power? I can't remember what it is, by Andy Coggan. I haven't read that one, but I've heard that's a really good book. But I have read Joe Farrell's Training Bible. I actually know someone in NorCal who's pretty strong in his 40s, and he actually won the best all-around rider this year, and he did, decent. He won the amateur race at Lions Den. Anyways, he says he uses the Training Bible, and he trains specifically off of that and uses that and plans his years out and everything. So he has success with it. I think it's a good tool. I think any book you can read that gives you more insight and helps you understand more about training, read it. I'm currently reading a book called Breathe, or the Lost Art and Science of Breathing, and it's insane. It's teaching so much about breathing through my nose. So there's so many books you can read. Yes, Training and Racing with a Power Meter. Thanks, Max. That's what it's called. Check that one out. And yes, I was talking about Matt. Get it. Anyways, I have a ton of questions. Expect an email from me in the following week or so. Dude, Shannon, why don't you just send me an email about coaching, and then we can just go from there? That'd be perfect. Just kidding. But not at the same time. Anyways, Iman, have you ever tried track, and would you recommend to complement road racing? I have never tried track. I did ride on a velodrome up in Truxell Town a couple weeks ago for the first time ever. Super weird. I don't think I would ever try track. Plus, I'm not a sprinter. I don't have that gene in me, so I don't know if I would be good at track or not. Probably not. So probably not going to try it. Anyways. Fast After 50 by Joe Farrell is worth checking out. Dude, sick. Yeah, so there's so many good books out there to read. I'm trying to think of some other books. Oh, I have a book over here in the corner that I read called Mind Gym. What that basically is building up your mental capacity, like motivation and like mentally preparing yourself and being ready and understanding the task at hand. Like the Mind Gym is a excellent book to read. So you would crush the Scratch or Pursuit. See, here's the other thing. I know nothing about track racing, so I don't even know what those are. Like, I kind of know what they are, but I don't know what they are. But yeah, anyways. That's the plan. Clifford's my... Dude, okay, Clifford, I'm just going to brag about Clifford really quick. He had a phenomenal year, and then he got COVID and he quit on me. But I totally get it. Some people take time off during the off season, and it's totally cool. I get it. I am a firm believer in always having a coach year round. I think there's so many things you can work on in the off season, and it's a huge blow to just neglect that and to get rid of a coach. But when I was coaching, I just parted ways with him this month because he got COVID and different things. We'll probably start up in January. Like, it's not a big deal. But Clifford had a good year. He had lots of podiums. We got on the podium quite often. He won a couple of races. Fun guy to work with. He saw a lot of gains. I think he's happy. Shannon, totally Shannon Jones, hit me up. Let's chat. And then Luis, I coach you too. What's up, dude? Fun fact, I rode with him on Zwift the other day for like 4 or 5 minutes. If this is the same Luis Francisco I'm thinking of. I rode on Zwift with him for like 4 or 5 minutes and then we parted ways. But what do you think about doing workouts on the trainer with ERG mode? Okay, I don't like ERG mode. I don't like it. It's cool because you can get on and you can mindlessly just disconnect and let the trainer set the power for you, and you can stay consistent. One thing I don't like about ERG mode is it does just that. It takes out the pacing. So I'm someone who, if you're going to be good at time trialing, you have to learn how to pace. If you're going to be in a breakaway, you have to learn how to pace your efforts. If you're in a solo breakaway, you have to learn how to pace, right? So that's something that I think ERG robs you of. I think it makes it hard for you to learn how to pace, especially when you take those intervals and you go outside. Like sometimes I have athletes that would be like, yeah, I crush these on the trainer and ERG, and then when I go outside, it's so hard because the road changes and it's different, and the road goes up, then it goes down. I can't pace it right. Honestly, when I go on Zwift, I do use my bike computer for intervals on Zwift, but I will ride Zwift as normal, and I'll have the climbs in it and I'll have everything, but I will ride it as normal, and I will pace off my computer, and I will pace to the watch I need to be at, and I don't use ERG. I don't even use Zwift workout mode because I'd rather have the undulations of Zwift just like it is out in the real world. And honestly, when I moved to this area, I got super nervous because in California, we have 40-minute climbs where I can go do a 40-minute interval on a climb, and it's just a steady grade the whole way. Or we have flat roads that have no intersections, or we can just run on these flat roads for, an hour without any interruptions. And then moving here into Pennsylvania, everything's up and down, intersections, left, right. So what I ended up doing is I found a stretch of road where it takes me about 20 minutes to get to the end of it. I can flip a U-turn on it and go 20 minutes back. So I would go out there and I would go out, back, and out, and that would be like my hour interval. So I've been doing a lot of that lately. But it does have ups and downs in it. Like, it's not completely flat. It's kind of up, it's kind of down. Actually, when I end it, it finally comes to a climb that goes up for about 7 minutes, and I'll do that. So that's something that I think ERG or erg mode robs you of. So I would definitely prefer athletes to not use erg mode, but if that's something you do use, you can use it. But again, I would rather say no erg mode. How do you know if you have this sprinter gene? Basically, if you're throwing out like pretty solid high watts for your body size, you have the sprinter gene. Max in the chat, he's got a decent little sprint. Like, I watched it in Florida. He's kind of a little bit of a sprinter, maybe a little bit all arounder, but he's got some sprint in him for sure. Me, I'm hitting like 1,100, maybe 1,200 on a good day, and I'm not winning a lot of sprints. My buddy Nick, who's the same size as me, he's hitting 15, 1,600. He's holding 1,300 for 10 seconds, something stupid like that. That's 10 seconds longer than I can even max at. So he has a sprinter gene. For me, I don't have the sprinter gene. For me, 10 seconds at 1,000 watts is a good day. So it's just something about that too. Plus, if you're sprinting against a lot of people and you're beating them all the time, you kind of have the sprinter gene. Anyways, this is gonna be like my last question. So if you didn't quite get a question in yet, sorry about that. But this is my last one. ERG mode, harder, pacing not the best, so always overshoot and target level. Yeah, learning to pace is good. Yep, same Lewis, thanks for answering. Sweet. Going backwards in the last 200 meters equals no sprinter. That's my experience. Dude, that's my experience too. Anyways, hey, this has been fun. Sorry, I've been meaning to get more of these on. I scheduled and rescheduled. Anyways, I'm looking to maybe do these at least once a month. So if we do these once a month, that would be awesome. If we do them twice a month, that would be really cool. But I'm going to actually keep them lower to about an hour like we've been doing now. So anyways, this was fun. Super appreciate this, guys. Hope you guys are having fun with your off season. Just from time to time, if you can, hit me up on Instagram and share with me what's going on in your off season. Always love to hear that kind of stuff. People ask me questions all the time on Instagram, and I'm usually pretty good about answering, I think. If I haven't answered your question on Instagram, I apologize. But outside of that, enjoy the off season. Get fat, eat lots of cake. Just kidding, don't do that. But yeah, anyways, y'all have a good night, and I'll talk to you guys later.